Okay, so I'm going to talk you through how to answer the questions on the end of unit tests on equations of circles, just to make sure that you're confident with the more basic questions and to give you a bit more information and background on some of the trickier problem-solving questions there that are linked to other areas that we've covered. Okay, so if we start having a look at the questions, make sure you've got a green pen for marking and either green or purple for writing down your corrections. This will help you to make sure that you've got that information there to help you when you come to do your target work. It'll also help you as well if you can rag as you go through, because you'll need to fill in a Google form at the end so that I can see what areas you've done well in and what areas you may need some help improving on. Okay then, so question 1, we want to work out the diameter of the circle x squared plus y squared equals 64. Well, we know the general formula is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So in this case, r squared is 64, square root both sides, and we've worked out the radius is 8. So remember, the radius is from the centre to the circumference of the circle, but we're asked to calculate the diameter, which is from one side of the centre to the other, one side of the circumference to the other side, going through the centre, and therefore double the radius, and we get 16 for 1 mark, so red or green on this one. Question 2 then, so this is an equation of a circle, x squared plus y squared equals a quarter. So we know r squared is equal to a quarter, so you can use calculator or you could use surds to be able to simplify this one. So it's the square root of a quarter, which we would split up into the square root of 1 over the square root of 4, giving us a half. Okay, so 1 mark for that one, and either red or green. Right, if we have a look then at question 3, so on this one, a circle with a centre 0, or the origin, passes through the point 5, 0. Okay, so 5, 0 is over here, and therefore that implies that the radius from the centre to the circumference is going to be 5, and we know our formula is x squared plus y squared equals the radius squared, so 5 squared, giving us a solution of x squared plus y squared equals 25 for 1 mark. Okay, so red or green on question 3. We then have a look at question 4. So part A, what is the equation of a circle with a centre 0, 0 and a diameter of 6 units? Well, if the diameter is 6, we know the radius is half of that, which is 3, and the radius squared is then 9. So x squared plus y squared equals r squared, which is x squared plus y squared equals 9 for 1 mark on part A. Part B, which of these points lie on the circumference of the circle x squared plus y squared equals 25? Well, if it's going to work, it means the x-coordinate squared plus the y-coordinate squared must make 25 for it to be exactly on the circumference. So if we do minus 3 squared, that gives us 9, plus 4 squared, that's 16. Add them together, we get 25, and we know the first one works. But just so you can see, you can check it with all of them. Square the x-coordinate, square the y-coordinate, and you can see that they're not equal to 25. There should be a line on that one, so just be mindful with this particular one that I missed that not equal to there. Okay, and then for part C, so we've got a circle true or false for each statement. The centre of the circle x squared plus y squared equals 25 is 0, 0. Well, any circle equation in this format with just x squared and y squared in it, always has a centre at 0, 0, the origin, so that is true. The second one, the equation of the tangent to the circle x squared plus y squared equals 25 at the point 5, 0 is y equals 5. So I've done a little sketch there. Centre 0, 0, I know my radius is 5. At the point 5, 0 would be this point here. Well, the tangent would be a vertical line which would cross through the x-axis at x equals 5. So that would be false. Okay, so it's not y equals 5, it should have been x equals 5. And then the last one, the equation of a circle and the equation of a straight line can have 0, 1, or 2 solutions if solved simultaneously. And again, there's a diagram here just to show you. So if I've got my circle equation, if I draw a line down the bottom here that doesn't touch the circle at all, then it would have 0 solutions. A tangent that just touches the edge of the circle at one particular point would then have 1 solution, or the top line here where it goes through the circumference on 2 occasions then would have 2 solutions. So yes, it is true that they can have 0, 1, or 2 solutions. So the marks for this one, if you have all 3 correct, you get 2 marks, and if you have 2 of them correct, you get 1 mark. Unfortunately, there's no marks for just having 1 correct. Okay, so out of the 4 marks, you need to decide whether you're red, amber, or green on question 4. Okay, so we're going to have a look at question 5. So A and B are points on the circle with the equation x squared plus y squared equals 25. We know A is the coordinate 3, 4. B is a point on the y-axis, and PA and PB are both tangents. For part A, we need to show that the coordinates of B are 0, -5. So we know there are two ways of doing this one, that r squared is 25, and therefore the radius of the circle is 5. And so we know we have to go down from the centre, 0, 0, down -5 to B, and obviously it has an x coordinate of 0, so we could state that one. Or you could substitute in the two values, so 0 squared plus -5 squared, to show that you get 0 plus 25, which is in fact equal to 25. So there's 1 mark for that one. And then part B, give a reason why PA is equal to PB. Well, you have two tangents from a common point, okay, so an external point, therefore they're equal in length. And that was one of the circle theorems that you had to learn. So they're just incorporating that within the equation of a circle question. And then we get to part C. So part C is a little bit more complicated. We're told P is the point AB, so you can see I've annotated that on the diagram. And we're asked to work out the values of A and B. Hopefully you can spot the fact that if I draw a line straight down from A, I have a right angle triangle, and therefore Pythagoras is going to come in handy on this one. Right, so to start off with, I need to know the two sides of my triangle, and therefore I'm going to be aiming to work out a missing coordinate. I know that the point at A here on the y-axis is at 4, and B down here is at -5, and therefore my triangle has a height of 9. Okay, I also know that the x coordinate for A is 3, and P is A, because we're told that in the question. So therefore the length of this line is A minus 3. I also know that PA and the line PB, okay, are obviously equal to each other, and therefore if we square them, they would be equal to each other. So that's going to help me with the fact that PA squared is equal to PB squared, and I know that this side, okay, is going to be A squared. If we think about then using Pythagoras, so it's A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So I know that my base, which I'm going to call A, is going to be A minus 3 in brackets squared. My height of the triangle, so my B in this case, is 4 minus -5, or 9, whichever way you want to do it, then squared, and then obviously equal to this coordinate here squared. And so from there, I can then expand my bracket, so I end up with A squared minus 3A minus 3A plus 9. Remember, you need to write that bracket out twice to expand it properly, plus the 9 squared equals A squared, so I get a mark at that point. Simplify that, you get A squared minus 6A plus 9 plus the 81 is equal to A squared. And at that point, I also know, when I fully simplify, that A squared minus 6A plus 90 equals A squared. Okay, so hopefully you're all right with this one. And therefore, I want to try and simplify and solve it. So A squared on both sides means that I can subtract A squared from both sides, so I'll end up with minus 6A plus 90 equals 0. Then I don't like the fact I've got negative 6A, so I'm going to add 6A to both sides, and I've gone over here then. So 6A is equal to 90, divide by 6, and I figured out A is 15. Hopefully you worked out that the B, okay, is actually, because it's the y coordinate for P, we know it's level with the point B, so we know that was -5. So there's a special case mark for just making sure that you calculated B is -5. I just want to quickly recap the A squared part, because I think that's possibly the hardest thing to see. Now, we are told PB, which is this line here, is equal to PA, which is this line here. Well, P to B, remember this is 0, so the length of this line from 0 to A is A, and that's why P to A is also A, and therefore PA squared is A squared. So hopefully that makes that one a little bit clearer. Okay, so there's 6 marks on that one, so decide whether you are red, amber, or green, and then we'll have a look at question 6. So question 6, this is the one where you're going to have to use your knowledge of tangents to solve. So P is a point on the circle with the equation x squared plus y squared equals 80. P has an x coordinate of 4 and below the x-axis. Okay, so work out the equation of the tangent to the circle at P. Well, our starting point is we know what the x-coordinate is at P, but we don't know what our y-coordinate is, so we're going to start with that one. So if we substitute in x is 4, we'll end up with 4 squared, which is 16, plus y squared equals 80. You can get a mark at that point. Minus the 16 from both sides, and we get y squared equals 64, and square root. And remember, whenever you square root, you get a positive and a negative. So the y coordinate could be either 8 or minus 8. And we're told that it's below the x-axis, so we know at this point it has to be negative 8. So you get a mark at that point. Then we've got to start thinking about trying to find the gradient of the tangent. But before we do that, it's much easier to find the gradient of the radius, so the line that connects OP. Remember, your gradient is calculated by the change in y over the change in x. Well, the change in y is the difference between the centre and minus 8, so minus 8, and the change in the x is the centre to the 4, and therefore 4. So minus 8 divided by 4 gives me negative 2 for 1 mark. And then remember, the tangent is perpendicular to the radius, so you flip that upside down and you change the sign. So where it was negative, it's now positive. Where it was 2, or technically 2 over 1, we then flip it to give us a half. So we have a gradient of a half for the next mark. Then we're trying to find the equation of the line of the tangent. So that's y equals mx plus c. We can substitute in that our gradient is a half, and we also know the coordinate is 4 minus 8. So we get minus 8 equals a half of 4 plus c. Half of 4 gives me 2. If I subtract 2 from both sides, I end up with my c value being minus 10, and therefore the equation of my tangent, y equals a half x minus 10, for the last mark on that one. So it's quite a tricky question. So decide whether you are red, amber, or green at that point. And then we've got one further question to have a look at, which is question 7. So A, B, and C are points on the circle. X squared plus y squared equals 36 as shown. We know A is on the y-axis, B is on the x-axis, M is the midpoint of AB, and COM is a straight line. Part A showed that the coordinates of A are 0, 6. So again, we know either the radius is 6 because r squared is 36, or we can use the two coordinates 0 squared plus 6 squared equals 36 to show that A is 0, 6. So you're going to mark at that point. And then just by inspection, you should be able to work out the coordinate of B. We know the radius is 6, so from the centre to the outside in the right-hand direction means it's going to be 6 along the x-axis, and we haven't moved up or down the y-axis, so 6, 0 for a mark. And then part C, we want to show the equation of the straight line passing through C, O, and M is actually y equals x. Well, we need our gradient to start off with, so the gradient of AB, okay, which is this line that connects A and B. We've got a pre-drawn triangle there, so it's the change in y over the change in x, or we can use the coordinates. So I've shown you that it's the change in y is going to be the 6 minus 0, and the change in x, the 0 minus 6. Okay, and we know by just inspection that that line is going downhill, so it will have a negative gradient. So 6 over minus 6 gives me minus 1 for a mark. Therefore, if the gradient of AB is minus 1, then the gradient of OM is perpendicular. So we flip it upside down, giving us 1 again, and we change the sign from negative to positive. So a second mark. If you then show that in the equation, so it would be y equals 1x, and we know the y-intercept is at 0 for COM, so y equals 1x plus 0 is in fact y equals x. Okay, so as long as you've shown that you've got a gradient of AB of minus 1 and a perpendicular gradient of COM of 1, that is enough to get you the 2 marks on this one. And then for part D, C is on the line y equals x. So because C is on the line y equals x, at this point, we know the coordinate is the same. So it could be 3, 3, 5, 5, however it's going to be in third form. But it means we can use the same letter for both. And therefore, if I say that my x coordinate here is also the same as my y coordinate. My coordinate for C is xx or yy, either would work. And therefore, using the equation of the circle, x squared plus x squared will be equal to 36, and we get a mark for that. If we simplify it, we get 2x squared equals 36. If we divide both sides by 2, we get x squared equals 18, and square root it, we get x equals root 18, which is then the surd that we need to simplify. So 18 can be simplified with 9 times 2 because 9 is a square number. Split it, so we have root 9 times root 2, and therefore that is 3 root 2. And again, because the coordinate is the same for both x and y, because it's on the line y equals x, it's 3 root 2 for the final mark. Okay, so 7 marks available on that tricky question at the end to decide whether you're red, amber or green. Remember, you've got your red box at the bottom so that you can be filling that in if you printed it. And I need you to now fill in the Google Sheet so I can see how well you got on and I can assign you a target for next lesson. Okay, if there's anything you need help with or any questions, please let me know.